We're in a different period now in May, and it really is a slowdown of Gate 36 energy. We have moved from all kinds of planets in Gate 36, and now we just have the North Node in Gate 36. Even Saturn has moved on. And I think that Saturn is really going to set the pace for something different for the month ahead and probably into June as well. June will be a lot different. So I would say that May is going to be the type of energy where we're kind of slowing down, we're figuring out what happened in all the chaos that began sort of the end of January. Now we're slowing down and processing all the things that happened in the past months, especially because May overall has a lot of individual energy. That remains the same for this full moon, which is happening on May 12th at 22 degrees Scorpio. And if you look at the month overall, we see a lot of individual energy. And the one thing that we always know about individual energy is we get into this space of potential for melancholy. It is potentially also a very creative time. So it is about understanding that sometimes we have these moments of blue, or feeling blue and not really knowing why we feel a certain way. And really, with all this individual energy, where a lot of planets are in individual energy, it is really in your best interest to sort of see this as a time of creativity, a time of sort of maybe even drawing in for a little while if that feels good. And especially with this full moon, because we do have two gates that are actually considered the alone gates. And that is going to be gate 33, that's activated by Mars, and also gate 12, activated by Jupiter. So we have an expansion of Jupiter in gate 12, which is an expansion of aloneness, being in your own space, being away from people, understanding that you don't always have to socialize because we know that gate 12 is part of the 1222 channel. And what this really is bringing us is this concept of understanding that sometimes it is better to be in our own space than being out in the world and not being understood for the things that we want to bring to the table. Especially with the 4323 channel being activated for this particular full moon, because it is a culmination of energy, yes, but it also brings a newness because the 4323 channel is a far-reaching energy that is something that comes as a spark. And you might have this initial kind of wow, what is that thing? It feels like we could do this, but maybe don't have all the pieces, and you may not even have the words because Gate 43 is all the concepts, the ideas, the innovations, and Gate 23 is what is called assimilation, and it basically is helping you to articulate all the knowing, all the things that you want to bring into fruition, and especially with this kind of energy because it is the beginning of the process in many ways. Anything that is above the throat center is all about something that we want to potentially get into manifestation, but it takes a lot of time and effort because there is no more motor energy. And this is also part of your outer authority. And when we're talking about outer authority, we're sharing it with other people. And the reason why we share is because energy that comes from the head and ajna or above the throat center is energy that we need help to make it become something in the real world, to be manifest in the real world. And so that's why we say we can give a lot of our ideas away. But again, this is very important when you have, especially the 4323, timing is number one, and number two is the right people. Those are things that you really want to sort of put into focus for this full moon, that is in that if you have some innovative, far-reaching, out there ideas, finding the right people is very much key. And finding the right people means that it is people that are asking for your input because this is a projected channel. This is a channel that does well when you are asked to explain your knowing to other people. If instead you're blurting it out, because with this channel connected to the throat center, it will be very easy to, as they say, speak your mind and tell everybody exactly what you're thinking and all the far-reaching ideas that you have. And all these gemstones could just fall out on the ground and just be kicked around in the dust because the right people aren't there. But you need to find the right people. And once again, it is the people who are going to ask you and be open to what you want to share with them. When that happens, it can be almost like magic because somebody else gets on board with you. Gate 23, I like to call sort of like a magic decoder that decodes all those musings. And as with all mutative energy or individual energy, as the 4323 is, one of the biggest things is that we have this kind of acoustic energy, or sometimes people say it's like a static that we have to tune, and that comes from the 6124, which goes into the 4323. One thing to always remember, and I think this is a great thing to remember, like from a human design perspective, is if you look at the body graph as a whole, you'll notice that in the center we have the 6124 goes into the 4323. And so what you see is a total line that goes, and actually it would start from the formats for the most part. I mean, that's everything is going to the throat center. So whatever's coming from the head najna goes to the throat center, and whatever's coming from the root center is going to the throat center. So keep that in mind. But when you notice it, that individual energy is sandwiched between collective energy, collective logic, and also collective abstract, which means that in order for those mutative ideas and sparks to get into the collective, they have to make it something that can be used in a way where it's something that people can use in the collective. So in other words, you have a concept that you want to bring into fruition, but yet it's not something that people can use in the real world. And that is the difference between what comes out as something that is mutative that can be used in the world and what can't be. And that is another key. And so the whole channel, the 4323 channel, is a channel of awareness because it is gate 43, which is an awareness channel. And anything that's coming from the ajna, all the ajna gates that are awareness, they're always energies that you need to sit and let them marinate to get more details. And that is what knowing is all about, especially with the 4323. We do also have the 17 as well, and that can help with opinions. But again, sometimes the opinions that come from gate 17 are not necessarily sort of brought to the point where they make a lot of sense and people may not understand it. The biggest key for this full moon, especially if you're trying to make things happen or you're trying to explain people sort of what you want to bring into the world, is simplicity. This is a handmade life kind of energy, gate 23. And so that's a big key for the overall energy for this full moon. Keep it simple. Don't get very complex in your explanations because as soon as you do, you lose the simplicity that is required to get those far-reaching concepts out into the world. But also remember that that's coming from the 4323 channel is something that's going to take time and energy to bring it out into the real world. This is not something that you're going to get next month or sometimes even next year, but it is the beginning of something. And it could be the time where you're finding the right people to actually figure it out with you, to help you, to give you the support, to give you the energy so that it can become something bigger than what it is. And if you look at this full moon, you see that we have a lot of emphasis around the throat center. And we know that the throat center is the center for manifestation. This is where we want to bring all those concepts, those ideas, all those things. This is where we want energy to come into this throat center because it is where we manifest things. But one thing that we don't have within this full moon is we don't have a motor to the throat center to make it happen. And so, again, this is potentially sitting with your energy, sitting with your process, figuring out exactly what you want to bring, where you want to go in your future, but also understanding that timing is all about life just showing you the path when it's time. With the abundance of gate 36 energy that we've sort of been having for a while, it's always been about, let's pick up the pace, let's move, let's get things moving, let's get things done, let's jump into this experience, let's jump into the deep end. And so now we're at a point where we're just like sort of, okay, let's slow it down. Let's reflect. Let's do those things that we need to do. And the nice thing about Mars in gate 33 line 4 is that it is saying that yes, reflection is important because the whole point of our lives is lived in the concept that we have an experience, and every cycle that we have, we're building on the new cycle using the tools from the past, the cycles of the past, the experiences of the past. So, in other words, every time you go through an experience, you're learning something that you can take forward in your future for the next cycle. And it may not be exactly the same cycle, but it could be something where you're using tools from other cycles that can help you along your way so that it's easier to sort of make it happen or to kind of get to the destination that you want to get to. So Mars is giving us that in to say, okay, this is a time to sit back, have that moment of reflection, sort of pick through our experiences. And there may have been a lot of things happening in the past couple of months. Pick through it and say, what did I learn? What is important? What do I need to carry forward as I move on? And then with Jupiter in gate 12, line 2, this is where we're pulling away from negative influences. This may be where you're unhooking from social media. This may be where you're unhooking from negative people who are always seeming to bring you down. And that could even be part of your family, part of the people in your work. Closing down the hatch so that you can have that space to be not influenced by the negativity that can be very rampant in the world that we're in right now. Now, when we look at Jupiter in gate 12, line 2, we're looking at negative information about laws, rules. It could be about the legal system. It could be about spirituality and even. And that kind of leads into we now have Saturn in gate 25, which means that it is sort of getting closer to meeting Neptune in gate 25, line 4. Now, gate 25, line 4 is a very special line, and I've been talking about this kind of moment when Neptune moved into gate 25, line 4, and it will be in that space for quite a while until June 8th, to be exact. And this is one of those special lines that doesn't have a detriment, it only has an exaltation. So it is only bringing one side of the coin. What this is looking at is seeing the beauty in everything, seeing that no matter what is happening in our lives, no matter the experiences that we've had, painful, whatever they are, there is some gem within it. There's some beauty. It's called the beauty in the garbage dump or something like that. And it is kind of trying to collect things that are important from the experiences of life. And this is also called universal love. This is about loving everything because it exists. Now, with Saturn in gate 25, line 1, exalted, this is bringing that whole perspective that it's actually come back into being this exaltation because Neptune brought back the exaltation for gate 25, line 1. Again, this is bringing the spiritual theme of understanding that despite the amount of spiritual teachers, despite the amount of coaches, spiritual coaches, development people, despite the amount of books that are out there about spirituality and how to improve your life and all those types of things, they do not have the answer. Where the answer lies is within you. These are all tools that you can use to help yourself figure out the answer. And this energy, Saturn in this energy in gate 25, line 1, is definitely bringing us this idea that you have all the answers within you. You can figure it out. You can find the path forward to healing. But with Saturn there, Saturn is the taskmaster. Saturn is going to say, work and do what needs to be done to get the job done. And it's basically saying that there will be no spiritual bypassing with Saturn in gate 25. In other words, where everything is great. There's no problem. I've never, no matter what people have done to me, it doesn't bother me because I'm very spiritual and I can just move through it because I have all this ability to just kind of be above it all. Well, this is basically saying that sometimes we have to get down in the muck. We have to be there with those feelings and we have to look at them, see them, and because that's the only way we can heal them. And this is what Saturn is bringing to us all. But again, it is coming with a bag of tools to get us through. And that bag of tools is knowing that you have the answers within you. Now, you can read 100 books if you like. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't reach out to people or whatever makes you feel good. But it also says that you can take all this information in, but eventually, the only person that really can make those kind of decisions about how you're going to move forward in your healing is you. And it's taking back the power to understand that you are the biggest gift to yourself to be able to find the healing that you need. It comes from within, and it will always come from within, and there's nobody else who can do it for you. And so Saturn is really encouraging us to look at our pain, to look at our things that have we've gone through, and it could be related to competition, it could be related to your work, it could be related to spirituality. It could be related to addictions, drugs, all those types of things. But it's basically saying, I'm going to step into this, I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to decide where I go forward. And the full moon is giving you the opportunity to use the energy to your advantage. And with Saturn in gate 25 for a while, till September 23rd, 2025, for the first round, and then it will start to move on to different gates. It'll move back to gate 36, and then it'll go back to gate 25 eventually in the new year. But ultimately, this is definitely saying that this is a time to do the spiritual work. And it is not a time for inauthenticity. It is not a time to fake it until you make it. It is a time to get into the muck, like I said, and sort of really try and figure it out. And as we move into June, the energy is going to pick up a little bit. We're going to have a nodal change, which I will do a video about soon to give us a heads up on it. But ultimately, this is the key to moving through. And if you are spiritually healed, or you find that and I mean spiritually healed, I'm looking at individual energy. I'm not necessarily looking at organized religions or anything like that. I'm looking at your spirit of you. This is a spirit of you, and that is what individuality is all about. It is your giving your spirit to the world, giving yourself to the world, giving the true you to the world, and being okay with being authentic and not feeling that you have to hide who you are. And globally, one of the things I wanted to mention again that I did mention in the May overview is this full moon has gate 36 line 4 embedded in the energy, which means that this is a time to watch for information that might be helpful as you move forward. And it's basically connected to averting crises or being prepared for things in the future. This is basically giving us a heads up that things are coming down the pipeline, and this is information that will be helpful for you when those things come, whatever they are, and we will all have our own things of how that's going to influence our lives. With the nodes in gate 36 line 4, this could be a time of cyber attacks. This could be a time of covert information being released. This could be a time of secret information being released. Basically, things that are not going to be wanted to be seen by the public may be seen by the public. This is where people who are working undercover might be exposed. This is where people might be whistleblowing. So those are the types of energies we might see during the time when we have the nodes in the gate 36 line 4, but also especially embedded in this full moon energy, which is giving us another 2 weeks as well outward from this the 12th until we have the next moon phase on, I believe, the 26th of May. And with Venus in gate 17 line 5, this is called no person or no man is an island, and it really is kind of pushing the agenda to say that we are all in this together, and it doesn't matter if you think that you're above it all, that you're better than anybody, or that type of thing. Everybody needs somebody. And especially, for this whole full moon, like I said, for the 43/23, we all need to have somebody to help us to move our energy forward, because we're not made to just live on our own and not really have any access to other people. Energetically, we need other people. But it has to be, of course, the right people. But the bottom line for gate 17, line 5 is this concept of global partnerships. This idea that we don't need anybody other than ourselves. We're fine with ourselves. I mean, this theme, especially with Venus, this is about money, monetary plans, and it could be about relationships as well. And it's all saying the same thing, that we are all in this together and nobody can just be on their own. And if you try and push that agenda, it's going to not work to your favor. This is something that says we might be hearing a lot of opinions or people saying, oh, we don't need this, we don't need that, global partnerships, we don't need this and that. And that is not the truth. And eventually this will come to fruition. This will show up. This could be the canary in the coal mine that says, this is, prepare, not in any way to be fearful, but prepare for your own future, because, gate 36 line 4 is basically saying there's information that we're getting that is important for us to prepare. So these are just just kind of signposts that are saying these are times of preparation. And then the nodes moving into 22 and 47 in June 13th, kind of bring that even more home. And as I said, I will make a video about that in the future. So globally, we might see some cracks in the armor about the partnerships and the truth revealed that the partnerships are way more important than maybe the powers that be that are telling us. The other perspective is that we do have Uranus in gate 8, line 3, and what this is really talking about is style over substance. In other words, it is this flaky kind of idea that we could dress something up and say it's perfect and it's going to be the best thing in the whole world, but yet it may not be what everybody thinks it is. And not only that, it may not be as good for humanity as we might imagine. This is once again saying that there's potential for things that we don't need, that are not good for us, coming into the world, especially with AI. And I think that, this concept of people saying, oh, AI is wonderful. And yes, I do fully agree that AI is wonderful. And yet with gate 23, line 4, fragmentation, this whole concept of amorality. Well, the amorality means that evolution pushes forward and humanity just is going to have to deal with whatever comes forward. And when AI takes over jobs, then that's what we have to deal with because, of course, it will take over jobs. And so this is the amorality. And I look at this as for instance, when horses were a thing and suddenly they had these first cars. Well, guaranteed that the people who did the horseshoes and took care of the horses and sold horses and cared for, they felt a huge difference in how things were working. Their factories for making wagons or whatever they needed to get around suddenly took a big hit and things changed. And I think that this is sort of where we're going for the future. We are sort of being pushed and made to feel excited about something that may not be so great for us in the long run. But anyhow, that is what I see for this full moon. I really do hope you have a wonderful full moon. And until next time, take care and bye for now.